President Cyril Ramaphosa today signing the new National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Bill and the National Prosecuting Authority Amendment Bill into law. The move comes after, of course, a huge outcry over the number of women who are attacked by men on a regular basis. You know how deep this problem and the problems it creates run in our society. Thoko Budaza is the Executive Director of People Opposing Women Abuse. Advocate Brenda Madumise is the Director at Wise for Africa. Thank you both for joining us. Brenda Madumise, if I may start with you. The presidency in its statement says today that this is, quote, a critical step forward in ensuring that women are safe. Do you believe that?
No, it's true. That is a critical step. I mean, it has been an issue for us for the last, from 2018 when the hashtag total shutdown took to the streets and make the demands, and then flowing from those demands was the summit that then produced the National Strategic Plan, and the establishment of the council was envisaged in the National Strategic Plan. So it's 3 years after the fact, but we are here, and what is going to be of importance and critically so is how this structure is going to function on a daily basis and how is it going to be resourced, because what we are not talking about is the resources towards ensuring that this structure achieves the multi-sectoral approach that it's intended to achieve. So, yes, Steve, we have signed the bill into law. It's about now costing that act. What is it going to cost the taxpayer of this country to actually do what it's supposed to do?
Thoko, do you agree with that? I mean, this is now about operationalizing this. It's one thing to sign it into law, but actually a lot needs to happen now.
Definitely, and I agree with Advocate Madumise, and having been part of the NSP, because this bill emanates from the NSP. So I totally agree, and I think it was very silent exactly on the resources, but also it was very silent, and I'm just hoping that the policies that come out of this bill and the council itself will close the gaps in funding the sector itself. And organizations like ourselves and addressing the challenges that we face in the sector. And it is also very important because it's a multi-sectoral approach. And what I liked about the bill, I'll be honest, is that 51% of the council is sitting with the civil society sector, which therefore means that we are a partner and we even have the majority. But I also, what also is very pertinent is that who's going to be in this council? Is it people? It must be representative of the gender-based violence sector. Youth must be present, women must be present, So I think it is very important. But the resourcing and the costing of the strategy itself and the programs that are going to go on the ground that organizations like Powa do will be resourced, or even the council itself will be resourced to do the policies that would emanate from the bill, because the bill is just a bill. But this is not a silver bullet, as I would put it.
Well, Advocate Madumise, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Is that we can't rest on our laurels now. Government can't rest on our laurels. The point about civil society having so much influence in this, 51%, as Thoko reminds us, that is quite important. I mean, that means government can't drown people out in this council.
No, we fought for it, and we when we put it on the table, there was no way that government could take a different view. They realized, and I think there has to be an appreciation that to get to this point, it took civil society to drive this process. If civil society didn't drive this process, we would still be talking about gender-based violence in a vacuum. That you have a national strategic plan, that you now today have a bill signed into law, that's the work of civil society. And government has recognized that it cannot do this work without civil society. And what I'm pleading for is that civil society does not tire, because working with government sometimes can actually exhaust you, right? And this space can exhaust you because it's an emotional space. But the passion and the drive from civil society has not waned, and I think that's what is going to get us to the finishing line to ensure that this structure does what it's supposed to do and is given the requisite resources to do its work. So, I mean, kudos to civil society, because they pushed and pushed and pushed government very hard to get to this point, and that spirit must continue, because once we lift the foot from the pedal, I can rest assure you that we will be back here again talking about why the scourge is at the levels that is at. So we just don't want to be to go back to all of that. Is to push as hard as we can and bring in as many other NGOs and civil society organizations to be part of this process.
Talk also then, what do we do after this, right? The council will meet, it will be formed, there'll be resources. Obviously, and we've seen this before, passing new laws to tackle violence against women doesn't stop violence against women. It requires, and I'm almost frustrated when I say this, the whole of society approach, because what that often means is that very few people actually do anything. It's left to the same civil society groups again. So Thoko, where do we go from here?
I think where we go from here, it is, as I said, I can't emphasize more of the structure of the council. We need strong people. We need people who can make decisions. Government has tendencies of putting people in councils that do not have teeth, that cannot, make decisions. So it is important that their side, which is their 49%, is structured, is put with decision makers. I will make an example, for instance, with the Gauteng, and I was with you, Steve, the other time, where DSD has not funded organizations like Powa up until this moment, even though they've been funding us for decades. But they should be sitting in this space so that such a crisis like the one that is happening right now, which is taking us step back and taking and basically not taking cognizance of what we are talking about today. So all parties, it's a multi-sectoral approach. It is an intersectional approach as well. So from here, let us have the decision to whom will we represent us in terms of civil society. And we hope government takes this seriously. But we also need to go to a place of fundraising. Government must actively fundraise in order to implement the national strategic plan. I must say, it is, I think Advocate would agree with me. We've had the NSP since 2018, and it was being run by the interim committee. But now what is important, because it was run by the interim, now we've got the drivers of the NSP, and it wasn't fully implemented. So we are asking for the full implementation of the NSP strategy. We trust ourselves as civil society. We worked on the NSP. We know it is the right way to go. We want it to be implemented. We don't even want to go and review what was there. We know what is in the NSP. For these 5 years, let us do what is in the NSP. Let us not be confused.
Advocate Madumise, we don't know what will happen in the elections. There'll be a lot of change. Obviously, we expect the ANC to be the major party in government. Is this law, does it protect the council and the intention well enough that no one, no matter who the minister is, no matter who the president is, no matter who has power, could try and weaken it? I mean, there may also be a small window for you here to make sure you can get your people in while everyone's distracted by the election. I would do that if I were you.
No, I mean, the question is pertinent. I mean, we are at election. A new administration is coming into being. And I'm told there's going to be configurations of ministries and all of that. So it's got an impact even on this bill, right? And the new law that is now, which this is law now, right? It's protected in the sense that no one can interfere with it. It's signed into law. It's gazetted. It's promulgated. No one can decide not to act on it. But the tendency has been with ANC government is that they tend to behave as if it's a new party coming into being, even when it's their ministers that are continuing to come in as ANC ministers, right? So we have had things being stalled not because of anything else, because the person who's coming in, who comes from the same party, decides to have a different agenda and different priorities. So I'm hoping and trusting that is going to be different this time, precisely because we will be in the forefront of ensuring that whoever comes in is reminded of this act, that this law has to be given effect to, and that commissioners or councillors must be appointed. Remember, we still have to go through the process of appointing people who are going to be making up this council. It's an open process that has to be advertised, and people must make themselves available to be nominated. And once there's nominations through the Ministry of Women, there's going to be a selection, and those people then get to form what you call the Council on Gender-Based Violence. That council is seized with the responsibility of operationalizing the NSP, meaning that they have to appoint a CEO that must run the day-to-day affairs of this council. So there's a lot that is involved in putting this council together. It's not just an overnight thing that's going to happen. And the sooner this is done, the better for all of us. And that's why I'm saying the new administration, the 7th administration, come June, is that this will be up high on the agenda of whoever is the president, but also whoever is going to be the responsible minister for this council.
Advocate Brenda Madumise, Director at Wise for Africa. Thank you. Thoko Budaza, Executive Director at People Opposing Women Abuse.